Crow 777 on YouTube, but on Crow 777 Radio, which is the regular Thursday podcast, we're going to be hitting one out of the park this week, covering artificial intelligence, and I don't think there's ever been a show that's had more research behind it than this one.
Well, you can say that again. That was some pretty heavy stuff we recorded this morning, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so that show comes out on Thursdays, right?
Yeah, Thursday morning. Usually I try to have it up before 10 a.m. in the morning. A lot of people all over the world contact me, and it's like some people in Australia are up late, but other people try to catch it going to work and things like that, or while they're working. So it usually goes up before 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Thursday mornings.
All right, by the way, I would like to tell your audience that David Weiss is the most amazing cheerleader and promoter for Crow 777, and I want to just say thank you.
They look good in board shorts.
Rob,
Come on, man.
Well, that's what.
Give me a C.
Yeah, until I have to start paying.
2 R's.
Gotta say that.
Right.
I'd rather be known as an advisor. A cheerleader sounds like a rainbow goes with it, all right?
No, it's actually true. He kind of is. He used to read me the Riot Act about once a week because people would say, "Where can we find you?" And I'd say, "Crow 777 Radio," and he'd email me and say, "What the hell's the matter with you? You didn't say there's 2 R's in the word crow." He's over there testing it, so yeah. I say 2 R's now.
That's what David does well. He tells other people what they're doing wrong.
Well, he wasn't wrong.
I wasn't wrong. Hey, let me ask you a question. You guys have said it a couple times in passing that you want to air your shows on Thursday morning. You just said it. I heard you say it this week again. Why? What's so beautiful about Thursday? Why is Thursday the magic day of the week?
Because it's time to the sky clock. That's the whole deal. We're trying to leverage off the things that we think are helpful in this period of time that we find ourselves in. And for Thursday, for me, it aligns with the sky when I was born, but it also aligns with what I consider to be positive energies, when so many of the energies in our world are right now being derived from Saturn. And there's not a lot of good about Saturn for us right now.
Is Thursday good for everybody? Is it a good day for me to do things? Or Jeran?
It starts to sound like hocus pocus astrology nonsense when you ask me like that. And then I say, yeah, but the truth of it is, it's about understanding the influences that are possible in our world and aligning your intention with a certain energy. And to reverse engineer that so that it doesn't sound like hocus pocus, this is what the news is about. The news spews all this fear porn and never has anything good to say. It's affecting your mindset, and that's what it's designed to do. And so they're deriving bad energy and then trying to influence you to think with bad energy. So basically what it comes down to is, as anyone can look up, Thursday is associated with Jupiter. That's Jove in the old-fashioned ways of saying it. We even have words. Jovial means happy. That comes from Jove. But in this age we find ourselves, Saturn is the main game in town. Look at any car logo. If you don't believe me, almost all of them encode Saturn.
What's amazing is as most people used to laugh at astrology, thinking it's just ridiculous. How could a big rock millions of miles away affect us? Then after discovering the flat earth and the fact that nothing is like they tell us, and that these lights in the sky that we see, which are named after gods, oddly, are most likely within our atmosphere or very close, and they're energetic sources. And now it makes total sense to me. I just wish I could figure it out.
Wow,
I need an astrologer.
Well, you should start teaching yourself. Right now we're busy challenging all kinds of different methods of astrology because, from my point of view, most of them have been jacked up over time. But take the idea of gods that you just said. You see, that's part of what's happened to us. The old people didn't think those things were gods. They weren't dim-witted. They may have treated them with temples as if we think of gods in the modern age, but they were always aware that it was just energies. And the people who wrote the books about them turned it into this whole, there's 52 gods in the sky thing. It's just part of the obfuscating of our life, but it shouldn't be a mystery to anyone who's grown a garden. They should understand that it's the sky clock that's driving all that.
All right. Last question, and I'll let Jeran take it away. When you say the sky clock, are you referring to the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app available on iTunes and placed at Google Play?
Well, since I'm not on your payroll, I'll do what you do for me since you're not on my payroll. That's absolutely what I was talking about, David.
That's exactly what he was talking about. No, I think you bring a good point, though, Dave. That's why, Chris and Cherie Geo and so many other people are open to this idea of flat Earth, or at least open to the idea that we've been lied to on a massive scale about the world that we live in, is because, it brings it back home. And for Cherie Geo, who does get into astrology and often wondered, why are these energies so important if we're talking about these lights in the sky that are billions of miles away, if not trillions and trillions of miles away, of course. And it just makes so much sense to some people that are astrologers. And remember we had the conversation, David, with John O on the show, who was an astrologer who came to Flat Earth the same way. Which is
absolutely.
what he saw. Yeah. So I totally agree.
I was listening to an astrologer recently, and they totally believe in the helio nonsensical model. And I'm just wondering, like, if somebody, like one of us, Crow or somebody, could actually talk to them and, wake them up to this new thing, it would just make their astrology that much stronger, because they're using the wrong model, but doing fairly decent astrology. But if they knew what it really was, they would be 1,000 times better.
Yeah, but here's the thing, people are going to catch on. I'm not too worried about that. And as a matter of fact, I've got books that were written in the 1800s from people who claimed that they were adepts in secret societies, and they sneak in a single sentence in the beginning of the book that says, everything we're about to tell you about the sky doesn't matter if you think about it from a flat plane or a spinning globe. Why the hell would you even include that in a book in the late 1800s? And the truth of it is, it's like the old Einstein nonsense. If you're on a really big thing and something's moving, how the hell do you determine if what you're standing on is moving or what you're looking at is moving? My point being, I think a lot of people will start to come around to it over the time. But the truth is that from my point of view, most of the forms of astrology haven't escaped they haven't fared any better than a lot of the information that we have. It all needs to be re-challenged and worked out.
Very good.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, we talked a lot on Thursday about freedom of speech. Of course, we were on YouTube, so we had to watch our mouths. And one of the great things about TFR, and if you're listening to this now, you're listening to it on TFR live. And the great thing about this website, this platform, this radio station, is that none of us are subjected to the same kind of censorship that we get on YouTube. So one of the things I asked on Thursday, and I'll just mention it again to you guys because you guys have a show on Sunday, but don't you find it great that Chris and Cherie Geo have both said that you guys can talk about whatever you want? I think that those kind of platforms are quickly going away, and that's why I think so highly of this radio station. And if you're listening to this now, you should feel honored, or at least excited about the fact that you get to listen to shows on this station, considering that everything that you hear from any host on this station is from their own minds. They're not being paid to say it, and they're not held back from saying how they really feel. Just wondering your guys' thoughts on that.
Jason and I actually tested it early on. When they asked us to come on, we said, can we talk about whatever we want? And they said, yeah, we encourage it. And so we actually went out of our way to see if it was true, and it is true. So there's no doubt. As a matter of fact, it is the reason we continue to do this show. I was thinking about it the other day. Just running the show that we do, we basically end up with about 2 days in between something that we have to record or edit or whatever we're doing, and we have to be doing the research at that time. So putting a Sunday show on top of that is just adding another straw to the camel's back. But the point is, we value it because we can say whatever the hell we want.
Because we know the next round of nonsense is going to be coming sooner or later. I mean, they haven't gotten the guns yet, have they?
No, but they're going to keep trying. They're going to keep trying. Yeah, absolutely. So, I think YouTube is, this is a good place where we can talk smack about YouTube. But one of the things that they do is they call the kind of content that we produce dangerous content. And, of course, they get to pick the narrative. They get to pick exactly what they want you to talk about. And if you don't, they can just get rid of your channel like they've done to Crow, or at least tried to do a few times. And we both are experiencing the same thing, right? When you get to that about 150,000 sub number, which is what it seems like for Crow and myself, we're both at about that same number. And all of a sudden now we are losing subscribers on a daily basis. And again, could it be something else? Sure, but it certainly is interesting that we were gaining 30, 50, 100 a day.
Yeah, it can't be something else.
Right.
I have records all the way back to 2013. This is a new thing, and what really gives it away is complete nonsense, is every other number goes up. Every other number goes up, and yet the subs go into negative numbers. For leading up to this, where we are now, where every single day is negative numbers, it used to be I'd pick up 20, 30, and this is after they already locked it down and quit referring anything to my private website. But on upload days, always it would go into negative numbers. All the views go up, all the traffic goes up,
right.
All the ad revenue goes up to 50 cents, up from a penny, and then your sub count goes down. But we showed up on Sergeant Report a couple times. The first time we did it, we weren't sure. It's a very kind of political audience, religious and political, so we weren't sure if what we talk about would fly, but it was pretty well received. Well, we did it again, and after I did, 1,000 subs in a single day came to my YouTube channel, and the very next day into negative numbers, and every day since then, which was late March, has been subs in negative numbers.
Yeah, what I find amazing, too, is the amount of people, and I don't know about you guys, this is just something I get. I get so many emails from people saying that their notification bell is constantly turned off. They've tried to show me screenshots of how they click it, and maybe they do a little screen record where they click it and it unclicks itself, or they show me that they just can't get notifications. Another person sent me a screenshot of his emails to show me that, hey, I'm on notifications, but then you see his email list, and it never notifies them when I go live, which it's supposed to. So I just think that that's crazy. I mean, that's the kind of tools that they use against us. Yeah,
it's AI. Yeah, there's no company in the world that has enough employees to monitor the amount of content YouTube alone has to. It's all being done by AI. So when you get a strike, AI did that. And by the way, I was thinking about that too as we queued up for the AI episode. We recorded part 1 this morning that will go live Thursday. If you think about this, when you get pinged by Google on some of their nonsense on YouTube, and they give you that one line that you can reply because you think it was wrong, so they give you that one little sentence you can write there to say why you think it's wrong. And then they usually respond back by saying, nope, we were right the first place. Sorry, your strike's stand or your video's gone or whatever it is. And they claim it's reviewed by a human being. But almost all the content that I beef about is an hour long. So are we to believe that the AI nails us, then we submit it and a human being does a fair shake on an hour-long show? I'm here to tell you that I'm convinced that basically the AI is working out probability records. So they don't review jack. They just look at the probability and what the AI has done because they just don't have time to monitor that massive volume of content.
No, I don't think there's any way they'd be able to.
Now, let me tell you guys something. I am always keeping an eye out on how we're being socially engineered and what they're doing to society. So there's a couple of what I call nerd channels that I follow just to see how things are going with mainstream intellectual properties. And I'm referring to things like Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, the MCU, all of that stuff. And I don't know if you guys are into any of that stuff. I'm not really into it anymore. It's more of research for me at this point. But even these guys, a couple of the bigger channels like Nerdrotic and Geeks and Gamers, those guys are seeing the same nonsense being leveled against them, where they're having subs undone and they're being flagged for nonsense, all because they're not agreeing with the way certain intellectual properties are going down. How about that?
Well, I believe it. I mean, I just wonder if there's anything that we can do. Is there anything you guys do, Crow, when you post your videos on YouTube? Do you stay away from certain tags? I know that's something that David Weiss has talked about doing recently. He doesn't put Flat Earth in his tags anymore. Is it something that you think that helps trigger it, or what do you guys do?
Well, title and description are the first things. And the other thing is I never comment ever on YouTube anymore, very damn rarely. Although I have a sterling record, I've never beefed with anyone online. Even when someone's being a complete jackass, I've been polite. So from that standpoint, it's hard for them to nail me because they have a record of all that, and that's part of what they will try to hold against you. But my titles now, like whenever I have people on, I never put their name in the title, because if I do, they'll inherit the censorship that I experience. A good example of that is the living man in Scotland. He wants to have me on again, but he was asking, why don't you comment on my channel? And I told him why. But the other thing is descriptions. What's funny is after they deleted my channel in the fall of 2017, 2-3 weeks later, it comes back, probably from so many complaints. I get this notice from them that says, be sure to use good keywords, good titles, and good descriptions so that we can better serve you, announcing your video out to the world. And I just laughed my butt off, because it was from that point forward that my description says the same thing every time. It says, I'd like to wish you all a happy, healthy, and higher-minded year ahead. That's what it says. And my titles, I usually try to cleverly figure out a title so that probably a human being would be required to figure it out. Not always. But yeah, every bit of data that you put in there, titles will be the top level snag. But the truth of it is, the minute you upload that video, their AI is going to town. It's reading every image. It's creating a transcript from all the language. All that is going on.
The only video I've ever had pulled on my Secrets of Saturn channel, back when I used to do that show all the time, is the one I did with Mr. David Weiss, in fact.
Because it was the one you did with me.
Yes, the one I did with you is the only one I've ever had pulled. And they only pulled it when I signed up for the ad revenue and all that, which I don't really get anything anyway, because I barely do anything with that channel. But as soon as I signed up for it at Crow's suggestion, boom, within like a day or two, that one got flagged. And I've been very, very tempted to re-edit it slightly and re-upload it with the title Puppies and Kitties Go Frolicking in the Park or something. But
I'll tell you a big part of it. A big part of it is tone and tenor. The AI picks right up on that. And that's why we always, when we do our shows, we try to be even-handed about it. Like this one with the AI. You're going to ride the fence on a topic like AI. So we're very even-handed, but I open up saying, this is well-researched. Here's 2 sources that are published that I use, these kinds of things. Because I'll tell you what, the next time they nail me, I may well take them to court. Because I have a sterling record. I don't think I've even ever cussed online. So all those records are there. And I think that you could easily demonstrate, if push came to shove, that you're being singled out. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough way to go. I was just talking to Robbie Davidson this week, and he was saying, have you seen the new YouTube rules? And I said, no, tell me a little bit. He looks into it a little deeper than I do, and he just had his channel demonetized, so he's been digging deeper into exactly what the rules are to be a partner or to have a channel. And basically, they're now saying that if you say a certain group is lying to you, that's now considered hate speech. So, for instance, if on YouTube I were to say NASA's lying to you, that can be now considered hate speech. So I think that, that's one thing I'm trying to do is just clean up, I'll lay out what NASA's saying and just try and stay away from saying that they're lying to you. Because if they're going to call that hate speech, it's just going to be, here's what NASA says. You can believe that if you want, and kind of leave it at that. So, that's one way that we can attack it.
The other thing they're saying is, if you say a well-researched event didn't happen the way it was well-researched, then that's hate speech. And, we know what they're talking about, any of these, shootings or whatever. If you question the narrative, that's hate speech.
Right, because you're saying some sort of group is lying to people, which is clear. And to most people, I think it's clear. And so, yeah, we're talking about, of course, these false flag attacks, these ideas that are as old as even people can remember. I mean, these have been done for years and years, and I mean thousands of years, where a government or a group gets together and, perpetrates these false attacks to get the buy-in from the public. The public all of a sudden goes to, rah-rah over what just happened, and they, kind of back their government even harder. And they've been doing it for so long. And again, if we just point them out, these things that are part of history, and they won't allow it.
Hey, Crow and Jason, what do you guys think about this concept? They're always doing do we have time here? Yeah, I'll try to get it in real quick. They're always doing these drills before or at the same time as these events happen. And a lot of times, every drill doesn't become an event, but all events have drills going. So I believe that they do these things, and the AI is looking and saying, hey, are people noticing? And the AI says, yes, people are noticing. And then they go, okay, it's just a drill. And they keep doing it until people aren't noticing. And then they say, okay, take it live, like with Sandy Hook or Boston. And, you know, if it wasn't going well, then it wouldn't have happened.
Well, look at recent history compared to the number of false flag events that were going on, you know, not too far back. Look how they petered off, and then they popped up in New Zealand. Compared to the way it was going, we have a lot fewer. And at the end of hour 2 on the artificial intelligence episode, I began to lay out the possible idea that AI's been around a lot longer than is being admitted, because they're trying to hang it on Google's doorstep. So about the millennium 2000, I don't buy it. I think it was first described accurately in the 20s or 30s. My point here is, what if all the stuff we see has been modeled by AI to a 98% certainty? And what I put forward is, it puts you in a position like Tom Cruise was in that movie, The Minority Report. So they say, Tom, you're going to kill a guy tomorrow, so we're going to come and arrest you. But you see, the act of informing Tom that he's going to kill a guy tomorrow opened a door for him to make a choice, which he does. And he does not kill the guy that they're trying to arrest him for. And in some ways, that's the position all of us may be in now. If you can follow that line of reasoning, it's not, you got to think about it a minute to understand where that goes.
Well, here's the other thing, and I had originally brought this up about the moon landings, but what if a lot of these situations, they're using people's reactions to things to filter and do better with each subsequent event.
Yeah.
Till they're finally ready to do whatever big thing that they're going to do to us.
10 seconds.
Yeah. Basically, that's it. I had originally said this about the moon landings, that now that they've announced that, we're going to go back and all that, and I, of course, laughed and said, well, to go back implies we were there the first time. But so many people have spent time ripping it all apart that perhaps they now have a good idea on how to do things better this time around. Right. And I would suggest that this whole false flag and everything situation could all be feeding the AI.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Jeranism RAW.
Use your tools, they said. But being on TV looks pretty.
Hey everyone, it's Chris Gio, founder of Truth Frequency Radio and host of Beyond the Veil. The mainstream media and establishment are running scared right now, and they've prominently featured TruthFrequencyRadio.com as number 89 on the federal government's hit list, also known as the fake news list, which is essentially a list of sites slated for censorship on Facebook, YouTube, Google, and other social media. Now is the time for you to get involved. Share your favorite TFR shows far and wide on forums and social media. Tell your friends and family about your favorite shows. If you're a business owner, get in touch with us to feature your product or service right here on TFR. And if you haven't done so already, become a TFR supporter now and get unlimited commercial-free downloads in high quality. Visit truthfrequencyradio.com/sign-up. Thank you for making TFR the leader in independent and uncensored talk radio. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
He was the deputy director of MI6. Britain's most senior diplomat. He was knighted by the Queen and in charge of thousands of highly trained spies. But he was also a member of the Paedophile Information Exchange. He had 45 diaries full of sex fantasies with children. His friend was the private secretary of Margaret Thatcher. He strangled a child and hit another with his car. He raped young boys and organized orgies with children for other politicians.
The Enigma Channel. Intelligent television for planet Earth. EnigmaTV.com.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
No hate, no hype, no fear. Real people, real radio.
All right, welcome back. You were listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. We're here for segment 2. And if you do want to get in line, if you want to call in, we will be taking calls probably the last hour, maybe half hour only. But if you have a question for Crow or Jason, I would just hope that you keep it short. Have your question ready so it's not a big, I don't know, you have some sort of diatribe you want to give. But just a simple question, a quick question, and we can kind of mow through the calls. There's already 5 or 6 lined up. But if you want to get in line, that phone number is 213-233-3998. Again, 213-233-3998. And I do suggest that you check out the video that we did this past Thursday. It's the most recent video on my Jeranism channel, so check that out. I think we covered a lot of good topics, but we'll cover some more today. One question I have for you guys real quick is in regards to YouTube and calling what we do dangerous content, which I think is laughable. But they've always told us it's kind of whatever they say, think the opposite. That's the way I look at it. And when you're talking about what is actual dangerous content versus what we actually do, why don't you guys talk a little bit about that? What you guys think is actual dangerous content?
Well, see, the problem with that is a lot of times the idea of free speech went to court. Unfortunately, they were playing the long game for the rules and the laws about free speech because it's all the government can't do this, that, or the other thing. Since we all know our government's a corporation, it's hard to even wrap your mind around if any of that applies. But potentially the government, or what we call our government, is what all those free speech laws are about. But the thing about it is, a lot of court cases that actually went in front of a judge and went through the process, the line was drawn, and it said that free speech can make a person tolerate insult and everything all the way up to injury. That's where they drew the line, is at injury. And one of the examples they always cited is screaming fire in a crowded building or something where people would get trampled on the way out the door. That's where the line used to be. But what's going on now is that the early days of YouTube and the internet did so much damage to the stories and the myths and the lies that we'd been told for so long. This is all about damage control now, but I don't think it's really going to work. So what if Google locks down everything? There's a whole internet out there, private websites and everything else, and people will seek those things out as they begin to scrub and scour YouTube. Not only that, YouTube in the next, 2, 3, 4 years is basically going to become cheesy entertainment platform. I mean, if you're not getting kicked in the nuts or playing with a hula hoop, you're not going to have a channel.
Right. It's just going to be another network.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people with a head on their shoulders, they're going to go looking for better sources of information.
Let's talk about another great big group of useful idiots that they have to do their bidding, and that's the crazy-ass SJWs that are out there who will call you a racist or an ism or ist or Nazi or something just for slightly disagreeing with them. And, of course, that'll immediately trigger any algorithm and be like, oh, well, that's hate speech.
Right, you're going against what is considered PC or okay. No, I mean, my whole thing with YouTube, too, is I at least have to look at him and say, hey, well, thanks for allowing me to gain some sort of a listenership. And, I just hope people are ready to jump ship when the time comes because, I'm sure Crow feels the same way. But I don't know how long my channel will be here. I don't know how long I'll be able to talk about the things that I want to talk about. Obviously, already that's been impacted.
It needs to be drugged through the system, and I am so against most of the system, and Lord only knows if you can find a clean arbiter within the system. But the point I would make is what we see so often is like with this vaccination nonsense. So now New York's saying, oh, it doesn't matter what your religion is. We don't care. You have to do this. Well, that's nonsense. That won't stand up anywhere that has any legitimacy left. And I equate it. Remember back when the president told everyone they couldn't own gold? You have to turn in all your gold. Well, decades later, that went through the court systems, and it was flat out stated. The president's not a dictator. He had no authority to do that, and he used the postmaster general to do it, which was also illegal. So basically what goes on is they shout all these things regardless of their legality, and if enough people fall for it, they get what they want.
Right. So then all the gold was gone.
Right. Then all the gold was gone. So, right now, is everyone going to give up their gold, which is basically free speech at this point? I'm just asking.
I think what they do is they throw as much nonsense at the wall and see what sticks, much like the characters that the WWF would come up with way back in the 1980s and 1990s.
Right.
Let's see how silly we can get.
No, absolutely. I think that it goes to show that they're desperate. And so they're willing to throw anything out there and just say whatever. And I know David's seen it, and I've seen a lot of people that actually came to the idea of Flat Earth or started looking into it only because they heard that YouTube was going to shut down Flat Earth channels. So,
right. That's when they deleted my YouTube channel, Jason and I had just covered Mandalay Bay. And that's when they came in and they used a lunar wave clip as the third strike, and they deleted me. But more traffic came to my private website in a single week or two than ever had before on the tail of that. And part of what they did there is people went to the channel and there's this page saying, this has been removed. Would you like to unsubscribe? So roughly 10 to 15,000 people were unsubbed by the time my channel came back. But I picked up probably 30,000 subs in short order, week or two. So even though I lost 10, I picked up that plus much more based on what they were doing. As a matter of fact, they just pulled a video of mine from over 2 years ago, but they didn't give me a strike. So you can see what's going on here. They're dancing the dance, but I just saw someone in the chat room comment that they don't think AI is all that in a bag of chips. That is one of the tools they have, and it does give them a bit of a time machine. Places like Google that have basically infinite data sets on all of us. And not only that, they're getting into medical records around HIPAA regulation. They're doing all kinds of things like this. So that is one leverage that they have.
Well, AI might not know that there's something with AI. Yeah. There is no way any company employs enough human beings to look at every tweet on Twitter, every post on Facebook, every video uploaded on YouTube. And I had the stats for the YouTube stuff. It's obscene how much stuff people put up. There's no way human beings are going through it all. There's just no freaking way, man.
Think about the losses they just posted. What was it, $70 billion or something?
Yeah, it was between $70 and $80 billion they lost on ad revenue because they're steering people away from the stuff they're actually looking for into mainstream nonsense. As a matter of fact, I play a little game with it. I'll go on different videos and see just how much mainstream nonsense. And, of course, way more so than they ever used to. They're trying to push a mainstream source on me, especially if it's a news item. I'm getting all of the mainstream stuff now, which I've now clicked on and said not interested in this channel, and now they don't show up as much. But I had to go through all that stuff because that's what they are trying to force feed on you, and they do the same crap on Facebook. And I don't really know too much about Twitter, but I'm sure that's being skewed as well.
Think about that, though. So they announced they lost $70 billion in ad revenue, which basically is directly related to all the nonsense they're doing to like channels like ours. How are the shareholders okay with that? You can say anything you want about a corporation, and anyone who understands the real world understands a corporation really doesn't serve the customer. It serves the shareholders and the board of directors. That's why our government isn't really a government. It's a corporation, so they serve the same entities, not the people. My point here is, if you're going to announce a loss like that, how in the hell are the shareholders okay with that? And that shows the desperation, because I don't recall hearing any backlash from shareholders telling Google to knock it off. We just lost, 4 jumbo jets full of $100 bills.
That's actually why I follow all those nerd channels, because all of these intellectual properties, and it's even starting to creep into sports of all things. You're trying to get SJW garbage into sports. Let me tell you something about sports fans. Oh my God, are they obsessed? Do you think a Star Wars fan is bad? Good grief. Right. Sports people, their week is ruined if their team, if we lose, quote unquote. Good grief. And they're trying to force this crap in there, and it's actually not working. One of the even commentators, I saw a little video someone had done, had cocked back about it and didn't get in trouble. Nothing happened. They basically told an SJW off. Like, that's – but my point here is that you aren't seeing properties being made for the customer anymore. Like, if you're trying to sell a product, right, logically, wouldn't you make it as good as you possibly can for the most profit to sell to the customer, right? You're going to give them what they want.
Well, obviously not with YouTube.
Right. And again, this goes back to the shareholders are going to want the most profits. Well, this is not what we're seeing with a lot of these intellectual properties. Star Wars is the easiest example. The Last Jedi was the worst freaking movie ever made, and they literally divided their fan base. People hate it, like absolutely hate it. And what does Lucasfilm do? They attack the fans and say it's your fault. I mean, that's insane. Nobody who is trying to sell a product, because that's what it comes down to, any movie, any TV show, anything, when it comes down to the bottom line is it's about money. Right. But they're not doing it. It's and to really put the bow on this is what I'm saying is it's about agenda now. It's obvious. It has to be about whatever agenda it is they're trying to push on these individual properties. Not about trying to give the customer what they want.
That's absolutely provable. It's absolutely provable. There's not a corporation in the world that would post losses like that and not lose their CEO the next day, or many of the main players. Think about how much money that means to the shareholders. Those kinds of numbers. We're not talking about M's anymore. We're talking about B's, as in billion.
Yeah, and the stats that Jason was talking about, too, I just looked it up because I thought it was 200 every minute, but it's now 300 hours are uploaded to YouTube every minute. So that's 18,000 hours of video every hour. And so anyone who doesn't think AI is in charge of deciding what gets posted, what doesn't, what needs to get a strike, you just need to contemplate that if there's 18,000 hours of video every hour uploaded to YouTube, it would literally be absolutely, without a doubt, impossible. The only way to manage that would be through AI.
Well, actually, the AI is in at the moment. So you encode a video, right, and you go to upload it. What's going on there is it's being re-encoded into the Google format for streaming on their platform. When that goes on, you'll notice, it does the upload supposedly and then the encoding. You see the bar go by twice. What's actually going on there is all the content's being read. People need to tune in on Thursday and catch the AI to learn about facial recognition, to learn even about the transcript service. So now, what was it? Google Mind, or do you remember the name of? I don't remember the name of one of the Google products that deals with transcripts is on the open market now. Yeah, they charge $16 for every million characters that have been transcribed. This is all done by AI. People have no damn idea. All of it, all the money stuff, just everything is being driven by AI at this point.
Right, yeah. So that's why I think it's awesome what you guys are doing. At least you have your website, so if anything ever happened to YouTube, people could still find you. I have my website. The same thing is true. That's why I appreciate everyone who, supports on Patreon, because if anything ever happened, that's where you'd find me. My YouTube channel would be gone, and that's where I would have to go, and people just need to be ready for that because it could happen at any time. One of the things I've heard people say, too, is all the time they say, well, if what you guys were saying is the truth, why would they allow you to keep saying it? You have any comments on that?
Well, I mean, what are they going to do? Just
right.
You're going to mute the internet. Look what happened to me. They deleted my channel, and my website got more traffic than it ever had. And then the minute they put it back, the 10,000 subs they took from me were replaced times 3 in like a week and a half. Right. So they got to be careful how they do this. And the reason is this is not China, where this stuff is light years ahead of where we are in the West, believe it or not, which is provably true. And what's ironic about that is they're trying to act like AI came to be roughly 2000. And when Google threw away its "we won't be evil" moniker that ran the company, by 2002, they're claiming AI had already been unleashed. But Jason and I just did the episode this morning. We'll show you that there were dudes outlining proof for neural networks, artificial intelligence, the 20s and the 30s. By the time World War II was here, there's no way you could convince me they weren't already using aspects of this technology.
And again, let's reiterate, since the gentleman, I believe it was a gentleman, commented in the chat room, there's just no way that enough people could be available to any one company to monitor all this. It's just not possible. I mean, we all tried to dismiss, like, how good can the AI possibly be, and we talked with Wayne McCrory about it, and lots of conversations, but it really comes down to it just isn't possible. There just cannot possibly be that many people going through that much material. What's really going on? They're feeding all of that into supercomputers.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your guys' thoughts on 5G? Would love to hear that.
Well, here's an interesting thing. I'll actually shine a positive light on 5G. You know, the big claim not too long ago was it was going to be coast to coast by 2020. I'm sure most people are familiar with Ookla. You know, like when you go to do a speed test to see how your internet connection is, usually the top search return is Ookla. Ookla, I think it is. Mm-hmm. They have all kinds of tools that show you what the bandwidth is around the world, but in there they have a little 5G map. And I was asking Matt Landman about it the other day because he's big. He's like the hardest working 5G activist you'll ever meet, and geoengineering. But if you go look that Ookla map up, there's hardly anywhere that even has partial 5G. It's almost all AT&T according to Ookla, and in many places it's very limited. And, you know, I think that 5G was completely about weaponizing, putting those antennas that could be weaponized, because millimeter waves are already weaponized. And the reason I think that is because during the course of the research we just did for AI, it had already been recognized that, like, if you wanted AI to self-drive a car, if you had any lag time to the network, the car would crash. So they realized that no matter how fast the network was, that wasn't a reliable way to get things like self-driving cars, because there's no way to prevent network lag, you know, down to a millisecond. So what they're doing is they're creating new hardware so that everything they need for the decision making and everything else is actually in the vehicle or in the computer and not dependent on network latency. And this goes to show you again the farce that 5G is. Not to mention the amount of infrastructure is just insane. An antenna every 100, 200 feet or whatever they're claiming.
No, are you guys familiar with the FCC OTARD rule? OTARD?
Tell me.
Let's hear about it.
So the OTARD rule is it's an over-the-air receptive device, OTARD, and allows wireless companies to place 5G transmitters on private homes now. They're actually trying to get it's the old law was that you couldn't stop homeowners from putting a device on their own home to collect a signal, like a satellite, you know, radio signal or whatever, a fake satellite. And they're amending it actually tomorrow, Tuesday, saying that they're going to amend it saying that you can't stop a homeowner from putting on a device that transmits 5G. Basically, that it's just extending it so they can put on a transmitter. And what that will do is there's many places where there's not telephone poles or places to post these 5G things, but there are houses. And because if they change this OTARD law, they can go and find someone that loves technology that doesn't know the health dangers, and they'll pay them just like they pay people to put cell phone stuff on their building, and people are just going to gobble it up. No hearing, no notification. They'll just set it up. They don't have to tell anybody that they're doing it other than the homeowner.
I wonder why I'm having all these mysterious migraines this week.
Right. Because I can't believe they've done zero testing on this. They've just been putting it out there. There's been no years of testing to tell. And, just because we don't have a radio receptor in our head to where we can pick up the radio stations doesn't mean that everything that's going through there is not damaging your cells in every possible way.
I think they're going to have a tough time putting 5G in the way they're going at it. I really do. Their big, bold claims are shown to be false, and just the amount of infrastructure alone, even if everybody was on board, can you imagine trying to put that kind of infrastructure in? Because what it basically means is everywhere there's a valley or everywhere there's a mountain, every 100, 200 feet, there's got to be an antenna. If you're on a street corner and you're getting your 5G signal and you go into a building, there's got to be more antennas inside that building because millimeter waves are absorbed by basically trees or bodies or cells, but they don't penetrate through walls.
But, Crow, what if they're just putting them in highly populated areas to control the people, with these millimeter waves? I'm noticing there's days where everybody's in a bad mood. Everybody is feeling like quitting whatever it is that they're trying to do. I think that they're really affecting people with these waves. As you said, it is a weapon system, and these things are popping up everywhere.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the intent behind them. I think it comes to the kind of their dream is to have the 1984 layout where a loudspeaker says, "Hey, you in the blue shirt, put your hands on your head," and if you don't, the antenna gives you a pain wave, because that's what the military and the riot police use millimeter waves for.
What about like a pain waves?
Say it again.
What about like a gay bomb? Like, do you think there's actual frequencies that they're using to mess people up? I mean, we see so much craziness with sexuality all over the place these days, especially in the youth. I mean, it sounds like a joke, but
no, I'm not laughing. I'm saying it's actually there has to be one, because look around.
Why do they need it? I think Hollywood and media have that one pretty much covered.
Yeah, they've done a number on people, man. You can't go anywhere. I went to the Giants game on Tuesday night, and I could not believe how many. It seemed like it was more than 50%. And, girls sitting in front of me kissing and guys kissing. It's just all over the ballpark. It was like, holy smoke.
That's about population reduction. That's what that whole agenda is about.
I mean,
now, as far as you're saying about – sorry, Jeran, go ahead.
No, it was me. I was just saying what they've normalized. They've normalized it so much. I went and I rarely ever go to movies, but I went and saw the Elton John movie Rocket Man with my daughter on Father's Day, and oh my God, if you the amount of gay stuff in that movie was so strong. I mean, you ever watch in a movie a heated sex scene with a guy and a girl, and you're like, whoa, that's heavy duty? Same thing, guys. I mean, I'm not a homophobe at all, but they've normalized it. I'm looking around, there's old people in this theater, and I'm just looking at everybody, and everyone's just like, okay, this is cool. 10 years ago, people would have flipped out.
David, they're brave.
They're brave, they're bold, they've really normalized it. It's obvious what they're doing.
Well, and this is what's coming next, right?
No, what's next?
Pedophilia.
Oh yeah, you know what? Sophia Smallstone told me that a bunch of years ago, and I just laughed. I said that no one's ever going to be up for that, and it's already here. They're already normalizing it.
I mean, that's the sickest of the sick stuff, and that's what they do. I mean, it's come out too much. I mean, I don't know if every single story comes out. I mean, I'm sure some of it's fear porn, but you just hear things going back, even way back into history, that's like the sickest things that the elites or the royals or whatever would do. And man, I just don't have a problem accepting it. Most of these people look like they're freaking Sith lords, like they're rotten from the inside out, like their eyes are oozing their life essence. It's ridiculous. They look evil.
You know what I've been noticing? Remember, Jason, when I brought up, the Sheldon character that was on Big Bang, always having the bright red hands, and they tried to say that he was compulsive disorder or something, washed his hands too much. Mm-hmm. And I said, nonsense, it's all over. I have been noticing the red hands on A-list actors everywhere. That movie where they're stuck on a spaceship, the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy, red hands, the girlies with red hands, all through Game of Thrones. The little white-haired queen girl had red. They're just, this red hand thing is going on everywhere, and I know damn well there's something to it. That has to be about blood, doesn't it? To have your hands glow bright red, and you got to wonder, maybe we're looking at the real center for the old saying "caught red-handed."
Interesting.
That's supposed to be about murder. That's where they claim it came from. But I'm telling you right now, start paying attention to A-list actor hands. And it's not in every scene. That's what's so bizarre about it. Like, you'll see it in 2 or 3 scenes, and then you'll see them in a scene where they just look normal. And you're thinking, well, makeup could take care of it. There's something going on. And that I can't possibly fathom any other way. That has to be something with the blood.
Very interesting. I don't know if you guys have ever, this is the first baseball game I've been doing 7 years, but one of the things that they had there, and I forgot that they even did this, is something called the Kiss Cam. You ever seen that?
Yeah, at ball games.
Right. So they turned on the Kiss Cam, and they kept showing, they would show 2 women, and you'd be like, oh, this is going to be like, and then those 2 women would kiss, and then they'd show 2 men, and then everybody would kind of be laughing, and then they would kiss, and the biggest applause happens when the 2 men kiss or the 2 women kiss, and I swear to you, half the people that they showed were either gay or lesbian. And it's
because they're so brave, Jeran.
It's so brave. Yes. Yes, so brave. I'm so proud of them.
We'll see how brave everyone is when there's no more children around.
Right. I just thought it was insane. Great. And you guys just did a 5G show, you said, with who? What's the guy's name? I was going to write it down. I didn't get a chance.
Matt Landman. He's like the hardest working activist. He started out heavily covering chemtrailing. During the course of that, he realized that 5G was an immediate threat. He's the kind of guy that shows up at town council meetings and films it. And he's gotten to be a better public speaker. And I mean, he's a virtual dictionary of the facts. So good guy to have on. You should have him on.
You should, and he's also starting to tread into flat Earth territory quite a lot. I see him posting a lot. He started off with just saying about how fake the moon landings are, and then he started talking about positions of the stars and all that kind of thing. So yeah, he's really branching out and considering a lot of things. So get with me if you guys want his contact info. I have his phone number. I have everything. He and I keep in touch. So great dude.
I think that's the problem that they're going to have. They lumped together recently, flat earthers with 9/11 conspiracy theorists and said, this is the kind of dangerous content. Well, I think that they failed to realize the percentage of people in this country that already know that there's something up with 9/11. And so when you just put those two together, I think that they definitely did more damage than good. And a lot of these people, SGT Report and other people like that, have come to this because of that reason. Anyway, don't go anywhere. We'll be more back with Crow and Jason.
Censorship and regulation is becoming an ever-growing problem in today's modern media. From the mainstream to YouTube and Google, the information you're looking for is buried by official narratives and propaganda. This is why TFR is 100% uncensored, unregulated, and listener-supported. The shows on TFR are not micromanaged by the station, and our hosts are free to speak their minds however they please. As such, the views and opinions expressed on our station are of those who make them. If you happen to hear anything offensive on TFR, please send us an email to toughtitty@tfrlive.com, and we'll be happy to tell you that we really don't give a damn. We stand for freedom of speech and non-censorship. If you also stand for free speech, you can go to tfrlive.com/signup and sign up for a TFR supporter pass and help us in our mission to keep the airwaves uncensored and unregulated. TFR Live, your uncensored and unregulated protection from deception.
Iran tensions, budget work. I'm Ann Cates. The Pentagon has announced that an additional 1,000 American troops will be sent to the Middle East as tensions with Iran escalate. Correspondent Frederick Pleitkin.
Chief of the General Staff of Iran saying today that if the Iranians wanted to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, they could easily do that because he believes Iran's military is strong enough to do that. But he also said the Iranians would do that in plain sight. In other words, not through the kind of tanker attacks that we've seen in the Gulf in the past couple of days. That indeed would be devastating for the world's oil supply. About 20% of the world's oil supply goes through the Strait of Hormuz.
With a new deadline to fund the government looming this fall, Congress is tackling the budget process this week.
The Democratically controlled House will move 2 packages known as minibuses that will cover 9 of the 12 annual appropriations bills. Congress needs to pass those bills by October 1st to avoid a government shutdown. While the House moves on those bills, the Senate Appropriations Committee has yet to take action on any of the 12 annual appropriations bills. Senators are in a holding pattern as leadership is trying to reach a deal with the White House to increase defense and non-defense spending caps. Senators would use those spending limits to set top-line numbers for their appropriations. Linda Kenyon, Washington.
The Trump campaign has fired several pollsters after numbers were leaked showing the president lagging behind Democrats in vital states. Correspondent Caitlin Collins.
This comes as the president is getting ready to relaunch his campaign bid in Orlando tomorrow, where they're going to have 20,000 people, the campaign says, and where they're hoping to distract from some of these Democrats that in these internal campaign polls are ahead of the president in key states he'll need in 2020, including Florida.
4 people have suffered non-life-threatening gunshot wounds during a shooting today at the Toronto Raptors NBA championship celebration. 3 suspects are in custody. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 23 points, the Nasdaq up 48. I'm Ann Cates.
You must unite what has been set asunder.
We are TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
On the weekday, don't be surprised, don't be surprised. Walk like us. They even talk like us. Walk like us. But they are not like us. On the weekday, you can see the signs, you can see the signs. They wear the disguise. Look into the mind's eye. There's nowhere to hide. Don't stick colored lines. Whispers from afar. We know who you are.
All right, welcome back. You are listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. We are live with Jason Lindgren and Crow from Crow777radio.com or Crow777 on YouTube. That's Crow with 2 R's. And we're happy to be here on TFR, Truth Frequency Radio, a free speech platform. They've got a show on Sundays that you should check out at 3 p.m. Pacific. Of course, this show every Monday. And, of course, their podcast, which comes out on Thursdays. So definitely check that out. You can find more information at Crow777radio.com. Jason, any topics that you wanted to talk about? We could talk real quick. You could mention about Shoot the Moon, the video, the movie that you guys made, how that's available. And, they can find that link also if they go to the show that we did on Thursday. Scroll down a little bit, and you'll see that the link to that movie is available quite easily. But tell people about that real quick.
Sure, Jeran, thanks. It's available on Vimeo on demand, and we've just dropped the price from $11 to $7, and you get a week's rental, so you can watch it as many times as you would like in that. We'd originally priced it at $11 because that was the approximate price of a movie ticket these days, and we thought, okay, well, that's fine. Let's just go with that. But it's been over 2 months now. Well, no, 3 months now, excuse me. And we just thought, well, let's drop it down. And this way, if anybody was holding off because they thought that was a little too much, they can do so now. So it's Vimeo on demand. And the movie is about the 4+ years work that Crow did filming with his telescope. And we have it cut with some really interesting interview segments that we did with him, and even a section with Randy from Houston, who is another person who caught the lunar wave. And we tried to put it together in an interesting package with an all-original classical composition by Dr. Brett William Dietz of LSU.
All right, awesome. Yeah, so definitely you guys should check that out. Some great footage, the lunar wave, of course, which was really big and I think probably integral to the whole flat Earth idea and people realizing that what we're taught is not necessarily true. We will be taking calls. So again, if you want to get your call in, there's only 5 or 6 people waiting. So 213-233-3998. We'll hit a few more topics before we take calls, but get in line. But right now we're just talking about all the lies. Every institution in America, to me at least, is sold out. They're politically rigged. It's corrupted, and it's all to favor big government, big business. And so let's talk a little bit. I know we talked about it on Thursday, but real quick, just the importance of health and people staying healthy, to stay happy, to stay fit. And, one of the questions I asked Crow was what he thought was most important for people and something easy they can do to start. I thought it was great that you guys brought up the fluoride thing, because I totally agree. One of the easiest things people can do is get fluoride out of their diet, out of their water, stop it from affecting your brain. And Crow, why don't you talk a little bit about the dangers of fluoride?
Well, all I can tell you from a firsthand experience is when I was in San Diego, I had filters to get the fluoride out of the water, but it wasn't on the showers. So you're still absorbing it in the showers. But now I've been years from fluoride, and it's night and day. You can think, you're not, I don't know how to put it, you're kind of like deadened or dulled by it. And the claim is that it calcifies your pineal gland, which would be equivalent to what most people think is your third eye or higher human function. So there's all that. And it's a hell of a thing. When I was young, the dentist gave my mom pills, fluoride pills, to give to the children. Those days are long. When I came here, here's something to consider. I'm in San Diego some years ago, and I go to the dentist, and I walk in, and first time I'm there, I say, there will be no fluoride put into my body. And like this fight ensued. And I finally said, I wasn't asking. It's my body. You're not putting fluoride in me. And so finally it calms down. They're doing their procedure. They get done. They hand me this cup. And I said, is there fluoride in this? And they go, yeah. And I just look at them like, unreal. Put it down, walked out. When I got here, I had the same conversation with the dentist, and the reaction was wholly different. It was like, oh, cool. And so I said, wait a minute, I've got to ask you, how many people walk in here, in your estimation, and say they don't want fluoride in their body? And they told me about half. So
wow,
that's something positive to think about.
That's definitely positive compared to how much toothpaste actually has fluoride in it versus, certainly not half. It's, high 90% if it's not.
So with poison control on the label.
Right. If you dare swallow
the first
this,
thing you can do.
Call poison.
So I have a dentist that I've been going to for years, and over the years, it took a long time, I educated them on fluoride, and I gave them flyers and videos, and they asked questions, and I got the dentist herself, and along with some of the hygienists, fully understanding. And I would come in and they'd be like, oh, no fluoride. And they would, change the stuff over and like, well, we can't give you any sample toothpaste because we don't have, they all have fluoride. And they were on it. But over the years, they got re-indoctrinated and they're trying to convince me to take fluoride. The people that I referred to go to them because, they were awake as like, they won't use fluoride. You just tell them. They all of a sudden, they got sucked back into the matrix because the mind control is so strong. It's amazing. I woke them up and they fell back to sleep.
Well think about a dentist. How do you balance the fact they're putting mercury in your mouth, a known poison? I'm just saying.
Well, this dentist doesn't. They use composites, and this dentist actually convinced me to take the mercury out of my mouth years ago. So
there's a big thing that happens with dentists, doctors, and all that, and that's these drug reps come around and they're offered massive incentives. And I'm sure a lot of people know this by now, but I have several friends, in fact, that I was friends with in college who went on to be doctors, and I was in their offices and saw this going on. And you wouldn't believe the amount of kickbacks they get back. The flu shot's probably the biggest and easiest one to talk about just because, good grief, they get massive kickbacks and they're shoving it down your throat everywhere you go.
Yeah, having good water can never be understated. We had a guest on a long time ago who actually lost their job in the medical industry, standing up against so many of the obviously wrong things that get done. And I guess I won't name him or what he did. He caught a lot of hell for it, but he basically stated that if people just drank a lot more clear, clean water, the health rate would skyrocket. And he used the example of if you have dirty water, how much water does it require to clean that water out? He used an allegory like that, and even though I drink a lot of water. Ever since we had that guy on, I drink a ton of water, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. That's something David Weiss has said from the beginning of when we first started talking. He would just constantly ask me, "Are you drinking distilled water? How much are you drinking? Drink more." When I quit smoking cigarettes, he said, "What are you doing to get away from those cravings? Make sure you drink a glass of distilled water every chance you get." And I can't think of enough
every time
of
you
that.
feel like a cigarette, just go drink a glass of water instead. Hey, Crow, I've been hearing a lot about, I don't have a filter on my shower. Do those filters really take out the fluoride?
Well, here's the deal. Supposedly, that's one of the real downsides for fluoride is that they're claiming the molecule or whatever, the correct way to identify it is so small, it's difficult to get out, so you have to use reverse osmosis. But then, apparently, if you use reverse osmosis, you've taken everything out of the water. If I was you, I would research it and look into it firsthand. I was big on top of it when I had the filters, and we could tell the difference. And I'll tell you another thing. We had a reverse osmosis filter. In San Diego, you can smell the damn chlorine in the water, and that was removed with the filtration system. The water didn't smell like chlorine anymore.
David, I can tell you that if it's an arsenic filter, the molecule is about the same size as fluoride, so you'll frequently see those labeled the same. So if it says it can do arsenic, chances are it's also for fluoride.
And how long do those last? Do they just build up with fluoride and then all of a sudden break through and poison you?
Well, no, it's filtering less. Like it's usually they say about if you're using something on a near daily basis, you should change it every year. Now I have for drinking, I use an Alexa Pure, but there's three main brands that kind of pretty much do the same thing, and that's ProPure, Alexa Pure, and Berkey. And I had a Berkey years ago. When I moved, I had left it behind for the person who was living there, and I bought the other one, and the Alexa Pure happened to be on sale, so I got that. But it does the same. They all do the same thing. As long as you get the one that says arsenic/fluoride, you're getting that out, and they last about a year. And then you just have to change. You don't need to buy the whole container and everything all over again. You just get the filter. Same thing with the shower filters. They last about a year. Where I live now, where I just recently moved, they don't fluoridate the water here. It comes from a natural source, which is amazing. But where I lived before, they did. So I made sure to have a fluoride filter in it, and you bet your ass I could smell a difference with the water running it.
Yeah, that's definitely next on my list because, that's the last thing that I'm still doing is still showering with the fluoride water. But at least, I always remember that people are drinking that water and people are brushing their teeth with it. And I've mentioned before that if, people who take acid or do cocaine, they can just wipe it in their mouth, and that's the quickest way to get in your bloodstream. And that's, of course, they put it in toothpaste, and people are grinding it into their gums. So an easy stop for people is just to make your own homemade toothpaste and to distill your water and get rid of that. And then if you can take the next step, like I'm going to do, it's going to look into one of these filters. So thanks for the information.
Yeah, anyone who takes CBDs knows damn well you put those drops right under your tongue. Same with cell salts. It goes right into you. It's a hell of a thing, so many of the things. But it doesn't end there. The main bit of advice I would give people is you've got to read labels and almost anything. Like, you know how hard it is to go into a drugstore these days and just get plain old-fashioned aspirin without a coating or the quick release or all these things they have in it? Right. We had Wayne McCroy on my show a number of times, and he's identifying all these things like polysorbate 80. It allows things to cross the blood-brain barrier. The main point is, or people who like to drink beer, most of that beer is made with tap water, or a number of them are made with tap water that's fluoridated. Sodas, a bunch of things like that.
And your crap water. I mean, if you're somebody who's a fan of beer, for instance, I occasionally will have a beer. I actually drink stuff that's local here in Louisiana called Abita Springs. That's where it's made, and it's made from the springs in the town called Abita Springs. So it's a natural source, very similar to where I live, because it's actually 2 towns over. But yeah, if you're drinking like crap beer, like Budweiser or any of that other nasty stuff, guess what? It's just like drinking over-the-counter soda. Any of that, like, folks, you're drinking garbage. You're drinking poison.
I got a question for you, Crow and Jason. So these evil corporations, Monsanto, Bayer, Kellogg, General Mills, whatever, they're out to kill us, and the government they're out to kill us. All the people that regulate them, they're out for the corporations, not for us. How are we to believe when we're reading ingredients on something that they're not putting crap in there? Who's the watchdog? You know, or is this part of free will? Like, I like to believe that they have to tell us. You know how we have this free will, so they can't lie and they have to put it on there. That's my only saving grace, is that maybe that's true. But I try to buy things that don't have ingredients, like lettuce and carrots and apples. And
there's a lot of things that can go into food that don't have to be on the label. And, you know, let's come at it this way. Has anyone ever, like, what's a good example? Just go into the supermarket and pick up a bag of chips or anything like that, which you probably shouldn't be eating because it's all GMO, or almost all of it. Actually, there's getting to be a lot of chips now that are not GMO because enough people are fed up about it. But look at all the symbols all over the bottom and the back of that bag and see if you know what they mean. And I'll be willing to bet you don't know what any of them mean. Some of them are just showing you that a Jewish rabbi blessed the food, but it's not the same symbols. So those symbols code things. I've been working for years trying to figure out what all the kosher symbols actually stand for. And you'll see versions and people will say, oh, you're an idiot. Here's the website. It ain't that easy, man. Right. I swear to you, if you understand the kosher codes, you would have a pretty good handle on what you should be eating and what you shouldn't, but it's not easy to decipher. And there's all these kind of catch-all broad definitions of what they're supposed to mean. Point is if it's about a rabbi blessing your food, which I'm not sure why I need that because I'm not Jewish, the point is, why do they need all these? There's like tons of different symbols. I mean, you might notice one or two and say, okay, so they're using two symbols, but it's like 30 or something like that.
You know, I'm a big fan of blue number 5 myself.
Yeah.
Red number 2.
Yeah, exactly. Last topic I want to mention, too, before we get to calls, or if there's anything you guys want to talk about, but what's the best show you guys have done on the hotly debated topic of vaccines, and what do you guys think about the dangers involved there?
That has to be Wayne McCroy, right, Jason?
That's the one with where you talked about the autism agenda?
Yeah, he's got children that were affected.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Wayne's story is he's actually a childhood friend of mine. We'd lost touch. We got back in touch again via social media, so Facebook actually did something good there. And come to find out that we're both on the same page with just about everything. And he was finishing work on his first book called The Alchemical Tech Revolution, which is fantastic. And now he has just finished his second book, which is Autism, Transhumanism's Dirty Little Secret, if I'm saying that correctly. And he has 2 children that both got shots and had massive reactions, and that sent him on the path. That's what got him down the rabbit hole. So he's there's really not much you can do to stop a parent who has had a child hurt when their ire is up. So Wayne is really amazing. Another person, if you would like on, I would be more than happy to hook you up with. And I went out of my way to get him fired up to go out there and start being a public figure. So I brought him on as the last guest I ever had on my Secrets of Saturn show, just to give him a place to practice with somebody he was comfortable with and knew really well. And since then, he has been going crazy, just doing everything, and I couldn't be more proud of him.
You know, that episode answers Jeran's question. So the whole thing was on vaccination and autism, basically, and I titled the free hour on YouTube, Playing with Sharp Sticks, The Devil's in the Details.
There you go. Exactly. That's a great job. You got to do that, because otherwise, if you dare put those trigger words in there, you're done. That's what AI is looking for.
Well, we made fun of it. So when we opened up the first hour, instead of saying shot or inoculation or vaccine, we said sharp stick. We did it for about 5 minutes just to make the point. And then I said, all right, I can't do this anymore. And we went back to just speaking like human beings. Right. But we were rubbing their nose in it.
Well, funny enough, we didn't get pulled, did we?
No, we didn't. But, you know, the last video I just had pulled was 2 years ago. And since the new rules that those guys were just talking about, you know how everything's retroactive with these. Right. I'll tell you what, from now on when I go on shows, I don't even really feel the need to mention that I'm on YouTube anymore. I really don't. I'm just going to start mentioning crow777radio.com. What's the point? You know, really, if you think logically, what's the point of trying to drive traffic to YouTube?
The point is that the sleeping people only know YouTube. They don't know BitChute exists. They don't know LBRY exists. They don't know any of these other places exist. And they're all here eating up the propaganda that the government is putting out there. So the only reason we're here is to try to corral some of these people and show them what's going on and help them wake the fuck up.
Well, I think that's, what we're going to need to do is start forming loose communities of groups like we're doing here, person to person, group to group, followers to followers. And that to some degree will subvert what they're doing, Google and Facebook and these other yahoos that are AI crazy at this point, because AI can't erase those relationships. And so it's also a good way if someone gets pinged for everyone else to stand up for them. The main problem is that the online attitude right now is that if you don't agree with someone, then you can't be their friend. And that is such a childish thing that YouTube embedded into society.
I'm glad you brought that up. We have a question to ask before the break. Jeran, you ready?
Oh, I can hear the tone of your voice. Wait a minute. I got to take out my other earplug. Okay, go ahead.
So Jeran and I are in a massive disagreement, but we're still friends. I think he's an idiot, and he thinks I'm an idiot. So it works out
I can
well.
settle this, man. You guys are both idiots. Okay, we're good.
We're good. We're done.
You know what? I said that's a distinct possibility that we could both be wrong. So let me ask the question, and if you want to add to it, you can.
Okay.
We know that gravity due to mass is a nonsense. It's been proven that it's just complete idiocy. But one of us believes that there is a downward force, whether it's coming from above, below, magnetism, electrostatic, whatever, that there's a force, a light, weak force that determines the down direction, and then buoyancy and density sort everything out. The other one of us believe that it's just relative density that sorts things out. So the question is, do you believe that there is some sort of force, that's the word, force in quotation marks,
I can argue
that determines which way down is?
David, you're right. I'm sorry to tell you, Jeran, when you put a brick in a aquarium, it falls because it is heavier and has more mass than the water it's falling through. I'm guessing that Jeran was behind the force, but
no, you're wrong. It's the opposite.
You're wrong.
Oh, then David's wrong. That was pretty sly description there, Dave.
All right, and
you put your accents on just the right words to throw me off. But no, Jeran's right. The only force here in this world, from my point of view, is electricity. That's it. It's the only one we got. The daughter of electricity is electromagnetism. But yeah,
and isn't the Earth filled with electricity? And can't that electricity create a downward attraction of items towards the Earth? What makes buoyancy determine the axis of up and down to be the axis that it's going to use to sort things out?
All I can tell you is from all the research I've done, electricity is the source, the only force here for me. The sun is electric. The daughter of that is magnetism. The moon is magnetic. This is the whole polar thing, male, female, negative, positive. It's like a battery.
That's interesting, though, Dave, because that's exactly the position that Paul and the plane took. And I think that's probably the direction that everyone's going to go with this, is just it's a combination of both. It's a little bit of what you're saying, relative density is the key to sorting everything out. And so if you say right, and
there's actually a snafu here too, because Jason? Do you remember the guy who wrote the book The One, where he was just trying to boil everything down to one force? Actually, he's also in the camp that thinks electricity is it, but he went. No, it's a guy. It's a book I got. I can't think of his name. It's from the 30s or 40s. Some rich guy put up a ton of money to print the gorgeous book because he thought it was so important. But to cut to the chase here, from his point of view, magnetism is even misdescribed. He said properly described, it would be a repulsive force, which goes against everyone who thinks they've had a magnet on the refrigerator, right? But the way he lays it out, it's very damn interesting. But what's more is he also correctly, from my point of view, says that the whole table of elements, the periodic table, is complete nonsense. And he uses tones and corrected what he thinks is correct. It's all very interesting. But my point here is I'm pretty certain the only overarching force we have here is electricity, and any other force you want to point to is a subset or because of electricity, like magnetism.
All right, without going too deep into this, I believe that that's absolutely the case. I believe that the earth and the air and everything is electric. Electric and its sister magnetism are the force that I'm talking about.
I see what you're talking about, Dave. Yeah, actually, I can address that. In the same book, I should go get the name of it so people won't be asking, what the hell are you talking about? But he claims also that the idea that opposites attract is wrong. He says a positive charge will attract a positive and a negative, and that might start to address what you're getting at. If you had two things with a similar charge and they were attracted to each other, is that the kind of thing you're
I'm saying that the Earth's electrostatic field, for lack of better words, it just establishes which way is down. Jeran doesn't like this example, but if you remove the Earth, which you can't do, and there was a void, and you had a bowling ball and a feather, where would they separate?
Absolutely.
I mean, how would the bowling ball know which way is down?
See, for me, that's an unanswerable question, because this place was made for us. And all this kind of 3D reality we find ourselves in is peculiar to this place. And it is here for us. We're the reason for the existence of this place, whatever it ends up being. So why do you need to establish which way is down? The only time you would ever need to establish which way is down is if you were in space. Then you need to start adopting the 6-directional coordinate, the whole cube idea. You know, whenever you see space coordinates, you're going to see 6 sets of coordinates. But that's all nonsense to me. So my question to you, Dave, would be, why do you need to establish which way is down?
Because how would density know which axis to use if there wasn't some force saying down is down?
Dave, it has to go somewhere, and whatever direction that goes would be down. So as humans, we're always going to have a direction that's called down, and if things went sideways, that's where we would stand, and that would be our down. So it's really a moot conversation.
Yeah, inanimate matter doesn't think, so it doesn't need to know anything. My point would be is go back in time before all the modern scientism, all right? And you're sitting there one day with Isaac Newton, and an apple falls on his head. And for the whole of all human history, it's been pretty clear that the apple fell through the air because the apple's denser and heavier, right? But all of a sudden, Isaac Newton stands up and says, you know what? We're going to need some math to describe this. So he sets about writing the Principia, where he says the word if about 500 times, you know? See where I'm going here?
Crow, is this the Universal One by Walter Russell?
There it is. The Universal One by Walter Russell. It's an interesting read. Looks like we're going
so I'm going to leave Crow as indecisive on this.
We'll be right back. We'll take your calls, so get in line, and we'll take calls. Be quick. Be ready to ask a question to Crow and Jason. Don't go anywhere.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. September 2018. Extendivite works in keeping my blood pressure in the normal range. I've been using Extendivite for many years now. May 2018. Great product. I use regularly and I rarely get sick. March 2018. This product has relieved what appeared to be angina pain in my chest and shortness of breath after climbing stairs. I'm quite happy about it. February 2018. My husband, son, and I have been using this product for a few months now, and we have noticed an improvement in our joints and blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find us on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWER to get $10 off your first box. As a special bonus, we will include our #1 rated Lipo3 appetite suppressant spray free with your order. Whatever your diet plans are, start with us at faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWER.
For millennia, mankind has been searching for answers to the big questions, such as, where did the universe come from? Where did we come from? Why are we here? Are we alone? And just what the heck is the Sasquatch all about? I can't promise you answers, and neither can the Woo Crew, but they invite you to join them Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, midnight in the UK, for Freaky Friday, exclusively on Truth Frequency Radio. Spirituality, multiverse, quantum mechanics, the occult, and so much conspiracy analysis that it will make your mind melt. Take my word for it. Freaky Friday. It's more than a show. It's a way of life. I am Stephen Hawking, and I am proud to be a Wookiee.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
You're listening to Truth Frequency Radio.
We are TFR.
All right, welcome back. You are listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. We have Crow, 777, and Jason Lindgren. We're ready to take some calls, so if you want to call in, 213-233-3998. Also, by the way, you guys are both invited back to the show whenever you want, so if you got something to plug or you just want to have another chit-chat, let's do that. But have everybody ready with your question or comment. Let's try and keep it short. Get in and get out, and I'm sure Jason or Crow or David or myself, one of us, will answer your question or comment. And let's see how it goes, starting off with the 903 area code. And actually, you've been on hold for 90 minutes, so I think you're allowed 2 questions if you want. But go ahead. Your question for Jason or Crow.
Hey, guys. This is Lowell. Crow, I've been with you since like 2012, 13, man. It's been a long time.
Cool, man.
Heard your show. Yeah, a long time. So I'm still a member. I love your site. And I wanted to give you a little shout-out, too, about you were thanking David earlier for what he does for you guys. You're the cheerleader. I kind of laugh because I'm like, well, I listen to Jeran and David because when you had that show with Mark Sargent, and I was like, well, I've heard of Mark Sargent on YouTube and things, but what I didn't know was the TFR live. And so since then, I listen to Jeran as well as, you and Jason, and add Mark Sargent to that. So now I'm listening to a little bit Lucky tonight and stuff like that. So I'm learning more and more, just spreading my wings, so to speak, listening to all these different views and things. So really interesting. Real quick now, kind of one of the things that, you remember who's the guy that you guys had on, Crow, with the guy from Italy, I remember his name, that
Dr. Francolina. Oh, you might be talking about, unless you're talking about Giancarlo.
I can't. It's the one that he was offered like a political position, and they got all this weird.
That was Giancarlo. That's a pseudonym. Yeah, that's Giancarlo.
Yeah, well, that had me freaked out a little bit because what I do for work is, frankly, I have to be kind of generic a little bit, but it's defense stuff, right? And that kind of stuff that he's talking about got me thinking. I was like, man, I mean, and the censorship is just making it that much more fearful. And yet, when I hear, Jeran just a couple of weeks ago, I heard one of the shows where he goes, man, I don't know if I can get a job today. So I was like, yeah, I mean, so with me, that requires a clearance and stuff. I'm just wondering, you can't even voice, like with 5G. I tried my best at work. I was like, that's it. I can't, like with vaccines, because I also have a nursing degree. But with 5G, I tried to talk to some coworkers about it. Dude, I thought I was going to get laughed out of the office. And I'm like, man, I said, just like Jeran said, I was like, they have not done anything to prove this is safe. That's all I'm saying. You know, and they just shake their head like I'm just crazy.
Well, if I had to go, if I had to go with that argument, I would go the other way. The idea is not that it's not been proven safe. The idea is that the first use we can see is a weapon. It's called a pain wave. There's another word for it. But these Humvees with the big square antennas, that's what they have. They have millimeter waves. So basically, the argument I would make is this is a military weapon.
Right.
Right. And Jeran, was it David with the eclipse? Some of the work, I love crows with the moon, of course, right? The moon wave and everything. And sorry, I'm switching topics. I know you want to try to make it quick, but I thought it was David that showed like a Miracle Whip cap and had a paper towel and a projector.
Yeah, it was him.
Was that him? DITRH, right? Yeah. I remember seeing that because when I saw the eclipse, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. You know, I was like, where is the moon? I'm an hour early. I should be able to see it approach, and I can't. So, and nor do I see it depart. It didn't. I was like, this doesn't make any sense, man. And so I was digging, and I came across David's YouTube video. And man, when I saw that, my mouth, I was just like, dude, that's it. I mean, that is a perfect model, simple representation of what I.
It sure looks like it's it, but I don't know if it's it. But it is a good example of how it could be it.
Right.
Well,
I think Crow's on the same page that it's not the moon.
Well, I'll add this. The moon plays no role, zero role in a solar eclipse, and language has meaning, so I will ask one simple question to get you thinking. Why the hell do we call it a new moon? Isn't it the same old moon we've been seeing for however long it's been up there? In my view, when the moon is what's called noon, you can't detect it. You cannot detect it, and I suspect that it's see-through as it's young and when it's new, but I did enough solar eclipses. The August 21, 2017, I stated outright that it's provable that the moon plays no role in eclipses. It's almost certainly the old Vedic idea of the nodes Rahu and Ketu.
All right, well, thanks for that call. I really appreciate it. Let's go to the next call in the 301. You're on with Jeranism RAW. Who's this? Where are you from?
Hey, Jeran, this is Ramsey. I'm calling from Maryland. I'll keep it short. I only have 2 softball flat earth questions for you.
Okay, go ahead.
One is about perspective, and the second one is about boat masts.
Okay,
so someone told me, and I'm just passing this information along to you for you to look into, that you can see the curvature of Earth on a long, flat plane. And the plane that I'm just telling you what I was told, that there is a plane in Australia called the Nullarbor plane. That's spelled That's spelled Nulllarbor, Nullarbor plane. So I don't know if you get a fundraiser or something, get a airplane ticket out there, and the claim is if you just walk straight enough on a clear enough day and you have a telescope, you'll see someone from feet upward. And that's the same as the boat mass question. And just real quick about the boat mass, I want to say that I've heard that the flat Earth response to the boat masts is that if you have a powerful enough telescope, you'll bring the boat back into view. But I was told that.
Okay, well, you're breaking up, and I'll just dump that call real quick and just let you know that you need to go out and do it yourself. Don't listen to somebody telling you what happens when you go out and you're going to say, oh, someone's told me that this happens. And I've done it myself. Go out there and look at it for yourself. Watch the boat disappear with your eyes and then pull out a high-powered telescope or pull out a P900 or a P1000, zoom in, and you'll see it reappear. Now, eventually, after it gets 15, 20, 30 miles away, it's going to become too small to see. And you shouldn't be able to see it that far anyway. You should be, at 3 miles, you're going to lose. Go ahead, Dave.
Also, you'll be able to keep bringing it back, but when it gets to those distances, you're going to start not being able to bring it back because of atmospheric opacity. And that atmospheric opacity is the thickest at the ground, and it gets thinner on your way up. So that line is like a slope moving up and away from you. So as things go into that slope, they disappear from the bottom up. That's the second reason. There's 2 reasons. There's at least 2 reasons. So you got to do it yourself, and it changes day to day. And the curvature of the Earth doesn't change day to day; it's always flat.
And go search for boats going over the curve on YouTube, and tell me why you find 2 videos. The old pirate ship one going down where you can clearly see that the camera's moving. There's just no videos of it even happening. So and again, you can watch my video on perspective and refraction and see what happens and what happens when you've got waves and swell. You have to think that what happens when those waves come near the shore. I forgot what the actual name of it is, but because those waves hit the shore, you have an upkick of water, and if you're looking out, you could see the bottom of boats disappear due to that. Now, again, you've been taught that it's because of the curvature of the Earth, and I totally disagree, but you need to go do that research yourself. Just go get a Zoom camera and go do it yourself. Let's go to the 707. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Question for Jason or Crow?
It's a question about where the Globebusters show has been. I've just been curious. I haven't heard anything. Was wondering if I could find out, Jeran.
Sure, yeah. We took last week off because Bob had some stuff going on, and this week was Father's Day, and I had some stuff going on with my dad and my son. And I'm going to do the show next week. I'm not sure Bob will be there. Bob might be taking a step back away from the show. I don't know how long he'll be gone, but he might be looking at some other things. But I do think he'll be back soon. So does that kind of answer it?
Yes, it sure does, and thank you very much. Sundays just aren't the same,
I agree. That's why next week for sure I'll be doing the show. If it's not on the Globebusters channel, it'll be on mine. But I believe it'll be on the Globebusters channel. So check it out. Thanks for the call. Let's go to the 541. You're on with Jason and Crow. Who's this?
Hello?
You're there.
Yeah, I'm trying to get off of speakerphone so you can hear me.
We can hear you okay. You hear you great.
I just wanted to say thanks for having Crow and Jason on. And some of your answer, this was not my comment, but I'll make this comment. When I was in grad school doing calculus, my instructor told us that MC squared, Einstein's MC squared, is out. It is not right. How's that? And he showed us how reality is really a torus field. And it was pretty interesting because we had some really interesting, comments in the class, and we kind of had some realization there. So that can help you a lot.
Absolutely. And I think that Richard Feynman even says that the laws of motion, Newton's laws of motion, are completely wrong. And, for the gravity debate that's been going on, a lot of the reasons that people think that there needs to be a downward force is they say, well, force equals mass times acceleration, F equals ma. And if that's true, and they go on and on and on and about, if you have to, if you look at Newton's third law, well, you've got one of the most famous scientists of all time, Richard Feynman, saying that the laws of motion are incorrect. So I don't adhere to those laws of motion. And if you try to, then you're right. You're going to say that there's a downward force because it's just mathematics, and that's man-made. It's a man-made convention to try and explain what the world is. It doesn't mean that it's reality. Somebody once told me from FE Core, they said, Jeran, if you deny the laws of motion, you deny reality. And that just shows you how lost people are in mathematics. That's just ridiculous. If you think that, then I can't help you.
Can we be honest about Newton, though? They're approximations, and that's it.
Right.
He was kind of doing the best he could with what he had to work with, but if you look at it from a modern context, it's just that. They're just approximations.
Right, and they're ways to describe the natural world. Yeah.
I'm just throwing that in there. And
well, thank you.
Anyway, I'm from Oregon. I'm Michelle. Once in a while I will call in, and not very often, and I don't make comments on YouTube.
Me neither, and neither does Crow.
I subscribed to his station, and I actually was watching Crow. I know it was past, like, 2014, so, I've been a long time watching him. But I just wanted to comment that I had a win today. I had a job interview, and I'm a government worker, and I just got to share what kind of censorship is going on with YouTube. And I work, government health agency. I'm a social worker. And so, I felt really, really good about that because this is a very small community and people are really in the dark. But at least I have no 5G meter. And I live on 13 acres, so I got well water. So I feel like I'm in heaven here.
Lucky you.
And I live I live way out of town, and I got to get some goats for these black bears. So those are my comments, and thank you for taking my call.
Appreciate it so much. Thanks so much. I'm sure Crow appreciates you being a member of the radio station.
Indeed. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the 847. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw, and Crow and Jason, what's up?
How are you guys? Emilios. Thanks for having Crow and Jason on. What camera have you guys used to look at the moon waves? Would a P900 work? And if so, any particular ways to do it? And because of all you guys, I bought a P900, just so you know.
Yeah, a P900 will do it. Any camera or telescope setup that will full frame the moon. In other words, the moon is filling most of the frame. Will do it. So certainly a P900 would do it. The only downside is that won't track for you, and if you're going to do serious work, you're going to need to put it on a tripod. So you'll have to track the moon by hand.
Yeah, I can chime in on that because I have the P1000. The easiest way to do it, since you don't have tracking capabilities, obviously, is to get a decent tripod with some kind of head that'll hold the camera. The P900 and the P1000 are pretty heavy, and lock it down as hard as you can. And then as you're watching it, you will see the moon rather quickly moving. And then if you have that locked down most of the way, you can just sort of guide it along and keep it in frame the best you can. Because the truth of the matter is, if you really want to catch something like a lunar wave, you're probably going to be sitting there for hours.
Crow, let me ask you, and thanks for the call, by the way. I dumped that call. But Crow, let me ask you, because I've been doing some moon watching myself, shooting the sky, shooting the moon. And I think one of the most difficult things is that you always have to be recording. And I remember you talking about in the movie that you and your wife would, switch off. And I was just wondering, do you basically record and watch at the same time in the viewfinder? And if you don't see anything, then you immediately delete that file? Or do you actually take that back to your computer and rewatch what you filmed again?
No, because that doubles your time.
Right.
This becomes, your whole life. So anything you can do to cut time is important. So basically, I started by looking at the 3-inch LCD window, and then I got sophisticated and run an HDMI cable to a monitor. But this is the way I do it. I sit there and I watch with eagle eyes for 5 minutes. If I don't see anything, I delete the clip. If I think or suspect I may have got something, but I'm not sure, I save the clip. That way, at the end of the night, you might have 10, 15 clips saved. Then you've only got to review 10 or 15 5-minute clips. So that's how I do it.
Gotcha. Thanks so much for that. I appreciate that. And I think a P1000 or P900 is plenty good to do it. And you'll see all kinds of stuff. You'll see things crossing. And just check out Shoot the Moon, the movie, if you want to see some of the incredible things that Crow has caught. Let's go to the 910. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Crow and Jason, David, me, myself. Who's this?
What's up, guys? It's Jake. Man, I haven't listened to you in a while, but I started listening to you a few weeks ago. And I just want to say, Jeran, you're correct. And the most simple way to put it is, we're in a container. The only place for a heavier object to fall is down through every other object that's lighter than itself. Just picture a hairspray can.
Yep.
You know what happens? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and to prove we're in a container, to prove it, it's very simple. What determines the shape of a rainbow?
Right.
There's only one thing that can determine the shape of a rainbow. What is it?
Well, David would definitely say a dome.
Exactly. It has to be.
All right. Thanks for the call.
So
appreciate that.
That's
let's go to the next caller. 580 area code. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from? You're on the air. We can hear you. We hear your children screaming. Okay, let's go to someone else. You're on. Let's go to the 585. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this?
Hi, this is Kevin.
What's up, Kevin?
Hey, guys, look, I'm a huge fan. Jeranism, Crow, this is amazing. I can't believe I got you guys on the line. I am so pumped. I wanted to ask you guys if you would be amenable to, I want to organize another meeting of great minds like yourselves. You guys, Adam Green, Vincent from Red Elephant, Owen Benjamin, Santos Bonacci, Seven Bomar. I want to organize a get-together that's not a flat earth conference, but it's a conference of great minds. I wonder if you guys would be amenable to that kind of thing, or are you tired of these types of events?
I love speaking at events, and I think that, calling it Flat Earth Conference is a little bit dangerous, and you're going to, a lot of people shy away from that. So I like the idea of calling it something to do with great minds or thinking outside the box or opening your mind, something like that. And I know, Jason, you're interested in speaking too at some events, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to get our presence out there more. And I know Crow's not really big into the public speaking thing, but I have no problem speaking in front of 10 people or 10,000.
I would actually do some of the ones that I find more interesting. The problem is that I have responsibilities here that I absolutely cannot walk away from.
Right. Certainly. I mean, I was only asking, just wondering how that would, to feel it out with you guys, because you're some of my favorites. And as you already pointed out, I think that Flat Earth Conference was shown to be very staged, and they made a Netflix documentary that was a laugh. They kind of exposed themselves. So I was just curious how you guys felt about that kind of thing.
Well, thanks. I appreciate the call. I mean, the conference itself certainly isn't staged. I mean, what somebody goes and does with it, or if a Netflix documentary shows up and films part of it, or films part of my experiment like they did, and then misrepresents it in a movie. I'm learning from my mistakes, but it certainly isn't a staged conference. The people there want to be there to speak about what they think is true. That's why I went, and the people that are there purchasing tickets want to hear people talk about something that they also think is true. So I think that's a little bit unfair. I think Robbie's done a great job of putting them together. Again, I just think when you call it a Flat Earth International Conference, you're putting yourself up for ridicule, and that's the way it's going to be. There's no way of getting around that. There's no way we're going to be able to talk about being lied to about the globe and not living in a spinning ball that's flying through space. You're going to have a hell of a time talking about that and never getting any respect. It's just going to take time. It's going to take more good voices. It's going to take people bringing up great things. It's going to take podcasts like this one, podcasts like what Jason and Crow do. David, do you have a comment on that? I mean, it's basically the best we can do.
Yeah, I think the conferences are people getting together to share experiences, network together. I think it's very important, as important as all different other types of getting things out there. People think street activism's good. Well, street activism, you're only reaching a few people at a time. You put that on YouTube, okay, you're reaching some more, less than before. I think these conferences serve a great purpose, and they all together, it makes a great Flat Earth soup.
Well, here's the thing about something like a conference or even a smaller get-together. It's that you're not alone on a computer. You're not listening on your phone. You're actually getting together with people who are hopefully like-minded, and you're able to discuss things in person. And that's just invaluable in this day and age of everything being on YouTube. We want to be able to get together with people, and you want to be able to make real friendships. You want to be able to get around people you relate to, because just like people say all the time, well, who do I talk to at my job and all that? Well, probably nobody.
Right. And it's just like people say, I mean, you have to meet these people. You hear a lot of talk. Oh, David Weiss is a shill. Mark Sargent is a shill. When I first heard those things, I'm just like everybody else, and I start thinking, are they? Could they be? Well, you know what? When you go meet these people in person, you realize Dave's just some guy, and Mark Sargent's just, like I call him, I tell him to his face, he's just a big dork. I mean, once you see who these people are, you lose that whole idea of these people are shills. No, these people are just, and they may do it in their own way. They may change. They may be different than the way you would do it. And everybody that I deal with does it differently than I. David likes his 1-minute videos. I like to do longer videos. I thought that was the end of the show. I was like, oh my goodness.
Oh, by the way, I'm dishing out the shield checks this week, in case anybody was wondering. Yeah, I'm doing the shield checks.
Thank you very much. Forward mine to my home address, please. So I know we don't have very long left. We got one more call. Let's try a real quick call from the UK. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw and talking to Jason and Crow. What's up?
Hi, hello guys. This is Ben.
What's up, Ben?
Hi. I'm a big fan. I've been following Globebusters for years, I guess.
Thank you.
I just had a reaction to what was said because it's something we were talking with other flat earthers over here about the moon and the impact on eclipses. But I'm going to be extremely quick. So we do agree that there's potentially a dome over there. And if we look at a Van de Graaff generator, you guys know what I mean?
What'd you say?
It collects electricity. So if we and that's actually that was triggered by you, Jeran, because one day on Globebuster you explained that the sun could act as a Tesla coil and illuminate the top layers of the atmosphere, the noble gases. Correct?
Right.
That would create dome, dusk, and the white light we can see without the sun being present. Now, if we think about another electrical effect, which is the Peltier effect, which actually it's a cooling effect, we could apply it actually to the moon because a side effect of extra cooling could be ice. And the fact that when the moon rotates and comes closer to the sun, you have the phases. Could it be that the ice is melting? And
very, very interesting. Sorry I had to dump you there, but we're getting towards the end of the show, but I appreciate the call. And yeah, a lot of thoughts like that. And, could it be celestite? I've heard so many things about what it possibly could be. We simply don't know. And I think Crow says that best when he says we simply don't know some of these things, and we've been lied to about it, and they go around proclaiming they know exactly what's going on. But real quick, I'll let you guys say goodbye. Again, hopefully Crow and Jason come back on the show sometime. It's been fun, and we could go on forever. If you're looking for them, CRROW, 777radio.com, Crow 777 Radio. Check out their podcast on Thursdays. But Crow, any final words before we head out?
No, we're going to have a hell of a show this Thursday, one of the most researched and probably one of the most important topics for the next, 3 or 4 decades of human existence in the West on this world. So there's all that.
Okay, great, and I appreciate you guys being on. And Jason, any final words or anything you want to leave people with? Some thoughts to ponder.
Thoughts to ponder. Yes, we are definitely happy to have been here. Crow and I really do want to reach out and start networking more. And it's just like we were saying before about people getting to know each other better. We had a little get-together a few weeks ago, the first Crow 777 get-together chat meeting kind of thing in New Orleans. And I'm just going to say that, folks, you should do things like this. Try and find folks in your area. And we actually had one fellow come over from England and one down from Maine, and there was a dozen of us. So these kind of things are great, and they make you feel really good about being around each other.
I totally agree. The only downside is you have to hang out with David Weiss.
That is a downside, yes.
Yeah, don't bag on him. He might discover a new force that proves down.
He thinks he already has. All right, guys, it's been fun. Till next week, this has been Jeran, Crow, Jason, and Dearth. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Truth Frequency Radio is your #1 source for news and information without the hate, hype, and fear. We're proud to feature cutting-edge programs like Beyond the Veil with Chris and Cherie Geo, X Squared with Brooks Agnew, Paranormal Portal with Brent Thomas, Jeranism RAW with Jeran and Missa, Fearless with Frank Castle, Strange World with Mark Sargent, The Eye of Ra with Ra Castaldo, The Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray, Ironworks with Josh Corey, The Kev Baker Show, and dozens more. Did you know you can listen from any telephone by dialing 641-793-7117 or call into your favorite show toll free at 833-TFR Live. Uncensored talk and news you won't hear in the mainstream media. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.
Iran tensions, House probe. I'm Ann Cates. The Pentagon has announced that 1,000 additional American troops will be sent to the Middle East as tensions with Iran continue to grow.
Iran is playing the other countries against the United States with the threat to boost enriched uranium. Behruz Kamalvandi is spokesman for Iran's nuclear agency, reminding the 5 nations still hoping to keep the agreement alive that heretofore Iran has been ruled to be in compliance.
What we need is to see that they are doing their own parts of commitments. Either they are not able to do what they want to do, or they don't have the willingness to do so.
Iran is being squeezed by renewed U.S. sanctions and efforts to bring its oil exports to a halt. President Trump wants the rulers in Tehran to negotiate a broader agreement to stop support for terror organizations and weapons proliferation in the region. Bob Costantini, Washington.
Former top Trump aide Hope Hicks will testify before the House Judiciary Committee this week behind closed doors. Correspondent Manu Raju.
Democrats on the committee are prepared to ask a range of questions to one of the president's longest confidants, including questions about what she experienced in the White House, things that are laid out in the Mueller report, allegations of obstruction of justice, and instances of the president allegedly trying to thwart the Mueller probe. The question ultimately is, what will she be able to answer?
3 Trump campaign pollsters have been fired after internal findings showed the president trailing behind Democrats in some key jurisdictions. Correspondent Sarah Westwood.
More details of these polls kept trickling out over the past few weeks, including last week, some hard numbers from head-to-head matchups with Biden and Trump, and campaign aides were frustrated that those hard numbers from select states of the 17-state survey were released.